From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Voice is starting to go in and out here, so bear with me on today's show. We've got a packed show to talk about today as Apache, Canada, US and Russia, FBI, and Trickbot making a comeback, all going on in the world of cybersecurity, cyber warfare, and so much more. Big shout out to KnowBe4 for their support of today's program. We've got a lot of things to talk about today, so please make sure you check them out in the show notes. Before we get started, though, there is a lot going on in vulnerabilities now. But we're starting to see more and more things take place when it comes to how Russia and China are leveraging the cyber warfare game against private organizations. That precedent's now been set. It'll be interesting to see how the next 6 to 9 months go there with that. So before we do that, though, let's get to some of those quick shout outs. Anna Lynn, thank you for being here. Good morning to Brent. Tadius from Poland. Good morning, Scott. Dan, Medine, Corinne, David, Eddie. Good morning. So a lot of cyber issues going on in the Ukraine. Yes, we'll get to all of that and more on today's show. But before we do that, I'm going to try and soothe my throat with an espresso. I know some of you are going to be like, why aren't you having tea? And I'll probably get a hate mail here in a little bit. But nonetheless, this is my beverage of choice, my Java this morning. So coffee cup, cheers. So let's get into what's going on with Apache. There's now a high severity vulnerability found in the Apache database system that's used by many major organizations. The JFrog security researcher team on Tuesday published a full technical detail of a high severity remote code execution vulnerability that's in the latest version of Apache Cassandra. The distributed NoSQL database that offers high scalability. Cassandra is popular in orgs like Netflix, Reddit, Twitter, Cisco, Constant Content, Dig, Urban Airship, OpenX, and a lot more. As well as cloud native and DevOps development circles. It's tracked as CVE 2021 44521, 44521, CVSS score of 8.4. The newly patched vulnerability only affects non-default configs of the database, which mitigates the fact that it is easy to exploit, leading to a complete system compromise. The security error only exists in functionality to create user-defined functions, UDFs, for custom processing of data is enabled in Cassandra and can be exploited only if the attacker has enough permissions to create a UDF. So it's not wide scale, it's not Apache Struts by no means, but nonetheless, it's still there and it's something that could be taken advantage of. In fact, Cassandra does implement a custom sandbox to restrict the UDF code, but JFrog discovered that when a series of non-default configs options are enabled, an attacker could abuse the Nosharn engine, escape the sandbox, and achieve remote code execution as well. This has been addressed with the release of Apache Cassandra versions 3.0.26, 3.11.12, and 4.0.2, and users are advised to upgrade the patched iterations as soon as humanly possible. Canada's major banks go offline in a mysterious hour-long outage. 5 of Canada's major banks had blocked access to online and mobile banking, as well as e-transfer for customers, including RBC, BMO, Scotiabank, TD Bank Canada, and the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, CIBC. As things were going offline, we saw an influx of reports come through. They said it was an IT issue that they were trying to resolve. However, the global money transfer service being down all day with transfers getting auto-rejected is something that is quite serious. Different reactions from different organizations. So CIBC didn't acknowledge any issues with their online banking. BMO said, well, we've got something going on, but reach out to customer service. TD Ameritrade. This is all coming on the heels of what Trudeau just did around invoking the Emergency Act for the Freedom Convoy. And they did say that they were going after the financial system. So some people are attributing this to that. There's no proof of that, by the way. There's no proof that that's actually what happened, but it's not far-fetched. It's an eerie coincidence if it did. Also, this could be retribution by people who are supporting the Freedom Convoy, taking down those major banks in order not to allow the government to take over funds and doing so much more. That could also be something there as well. Trickbot abuses top brands, including Bank of America, Wells, in attacks against customers. The Trickbot malware is now a thorn and has been for so many years now. Trickbot began its journey as a relatively simple banking. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but now we're seeing a new report that that Trickbot's starting to abuse brands like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Microsoft, Amazon, PayPal, Amex, Robinhood, Blockchain, and Navy Federal Credit, among many, many others. All of these firms are on that list. The researchers have also provided technical details on 3 key modules out of roughly 20 that Trickbot can use. The first is an Inject Dll. This module can inject JavaScript code into a browser to perform banking data and account credential theft. That's why multi-factor authentication on your banking is so critical. Using an app to do that. If your bank doesn't do it, leave your bank, go somewhere else. Seriously. Tab DLL uses 5 steps to steal identification. The malicious code opens an LSAS application memory to store stolen data, inject codes into the explorer.exe, and then forces the victim to enter login credentials before locking them out of their session and then taking over those accounts. The third module is the PW-Grab-C, designed to steal credentials from applications, including Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Internet Explorer. That's why having a password manager is critical as well, folks. Two-factor authentication, password manager, and if you're doing two-factor right, do it right. Use an application, get a password manager. Most password managers will give you a free application for two-factor as well. So keep that in mind. Best practice, move it along. All right, US-Russia says Russian hackers have breached multiple DoD contractors. This now is starting to go into a trend of Russia. We've heard about Russia for so long. Yesterday was the day Russia was supposed to invade Ukraine as well. So a bunch of cyber attacks on the Ukraine, but no invasion as of this moment, as far as we can tell. So keep that in mind, folks. With Russia saying that, we're hearing a lot about this stuff, but so during the last 2-year period, these actors have maintained persistence, access to multiple CDC networks, in some cases for at least 6 months. Cases of successful compromise, the threat actors were collecting and exfiltrating emails and sensitive but unclassified data, such as proprietary and export-controlled information. All that stuff is fairly, what's unclassified is public. So outside of maybe emails with plans, strategies, so forth, maybe an organizational update, something along those lines. They probably didn't get much. That's why this is a joint, and it's not a really, really big deal, rather than just another headline of Russia bad. We know that Russia's bad, but there's badder forces than Russia at this point. And CMMC is supposed to resolve a lot of these issues from a federal perspective. So keeping that in mind, nothing unclassified was gone there. Final story for today, the FBI's warning of BEC attackers impersonating CEOs in virtual meetings. The FBI warned today that U.S. organizations and individuals are being increasingly targeted in BEC attacks on virtual meeting platforms. These are known to have various tactics, social engineering, phishing, hacking, and so forth. If your CEO comes on a virtual meeting, says transfer $3 million, and no one questions that, you've got a cultural problem. Seriously, like a cultural problem. And they're using no audio or deep fake. Come on, like, question. Your CEOs are not gods. You can question this stuff. You can bring it up after the meeting, agree in the virtual meeting, and so forth. I don't know. I mean, I saw this alert and I'm like, what kind of culture do organizations have for a CEO can show up in a deep fake with no audio and then instruct employees to transfer money in a virtual meeting, and people do it? Yeah, I don't know. That is something, seriously, like, great one here by Mr. McQuiggan. Make it a policy that the CEO will never ask you to buy gift cards or transfer money via a Zoom call. I like that. Trust and verify. Indeed. Love your humor here on the side, folks. So that's it for our show today. I'm going to go try and recover my voice and get back to it. We'll be back on Monday with a lot more. Until then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.